Hey guys, welcome to our next episode of the Sovereign Radio podcast here at Modular Summit. I'm Hart Lamber, co-founder of Across Protocol and apparently part-time podcaster. I'm here with Rushi, co-founder of Movement Labs. We're going to talk about movement, move, sovereign, modular, integrated,
Any of the fun
next-gen
buzzwords
blockchains,
and
all the buzzwords.
all the buzzwords in between.
Yeah, thanks. Rushi, glad to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's a good day in Brussels. Hopefully getting out of here soon, but excited to have the first day of Modular Summit and seeing a lot of good folks here.
Cool. So, I mean, I always think it's useful on these to give a little bit of the origin story,
Yeah.
just like how you got into crypto, how you started movement,
Yeah.
and I think it's probably quite interesting just knowing the history of movement, all the stuff you're doing. So, yeah, tell me more.
Yeah, so started off in crypto, I would say 4.5 years ago, just early engineering. Was more of a Rust-based engineer and learned some Solidity early on as well. I'd say November or August of 2022, I was in college with my co-founder. We went to Vanderbilt University, read this article that said Facebook was building a new programming language. And here was opportunity for, we were used to 5 users on Cosmos and 10 users on Ethereum. And here's opportunity for billions of users to come to crypto through Facebook. So that got me excited, started learning about Move, reading about Move, learned about object-oriented state, learned about formal verification, why it's important. And then November 2022, around FTX is when Movement started. The general thesis was, how do we bring this great programming language and framework that was designed for Facebook and didn't actually pan out and bring it to EVM land? Started off in the Avalanche ecosystem actually, and then made our way to Ethereum, and now Movement is the first Move EVM layer 2 on Ethereum.
Okay, so backing it up, right? So Facebook built Move for Libra/DM, and that whole story happened. For somebody that's deep in the weeds, I think it's interesting from my perspective to hear you tell me why Move is so great. Like what it gives people that the EVM or SVM doesn't.
Yeah, so it's two things. It's speed and security. Speed side, you have Block STM, which is the main optimistic parallelization engine. So you think about Solana, but with Solana, you have to manage state concurrently, so it's harder for developers to A, parallelize their transactions, and B, you have a lot of transaction clashing. With Block STM, you essentially don't need to worry about how transactions are managing state. So you can just deploy smart contracts, deploy fully on-chain games, and you'll have high throughput experience. So long story short, you have really fast transactions with the VM level, and it's done and abstracted away from you. And second thing, which is kind of unique from SVM and other parallelized VMs, is security aspect. You have formal verification runtime through the Move prover. So think of your favorite auditor. They charge $100 grand, $200 to audit their protocol. They're probably the only profitable company in crypto. But yes, so they're always auditing at certain points. So they'll probably audit your code 3 times before mainnet. With Move, you audit your code at runtime. So when you execute a smart contract, it checks for resource type and memory safety. Hey, is this account getting hacked? Is there some kind of integer overflow that you check for? So you can actually stop the $4.5 billion we see every year in ransomware attacks, integer overflows, arithmetic operations. A lot of these stupid attacks in DeFi are just the integer overflowed, or there was some kind of math issue. And that doesn't happen because you check for it at runtime. So essentially it's 90% more secure than EVM, stops more than 90% of all attacks. So the fastest and most secure VM, and we're bringing it to Ethereum.
Okay, cool. So then the Move EVM or MEVM, what's that?
So we built an interpreter on top of the Move VM that supports Solidity bytecode. So if you want to deploy Uniswap, Aave, Curve, any of these EVM protocols, in the past you had to write Move code, which is a friction, right? Solana had this issue for the first few years where learning Rust was difficult, onboarding developers took a lot of brute force, and Sui and Aptos kind of in the same bubble where it's kind of difficult to onboard these developers. So the way we looked at it was over the next 4 years, you're going to benefit from the Move DevRel and all the efforts that leading layer ones and us are putting in, but we also want to support EVM compatibility today. So the Move EVM is a fully EVM compatible interpreter that lives on top of the Move VM. Obviously, writing Move is still better for a stack, but we support backwards compatibility.
Okay, so it's like a stopgap. It's like we can bring EVM apps to Move without rewriting code. And then the vision or dream here is developers will start writing native Move code.
It's like Solang and Solana. We still support Solidity. It's not the best on Solana, but the thesis is we want to support Solidity script and then nurture Move development so we can support both. The core DeFi apps and core protocols will be written in Move for us. But if there's like Compound or something that wants to deploy and is deploying, we're able to support them.
Okay, cool. So let's back it up and then say Movement Labs, like the company that you co-founded. What are your like products? What do people use? Maybe go into that.
So it's Movement L2 that is the main DeFi port or main infrastructure protocol where you bring the MEVM and the Move EVM to Ethereum, and you have M1, which is a decentralized shared sequencer, which I'm sure we'll get into centralized shared sequencers as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Lots to talk about there. But okay, let's do the L2. So the Movement L2, the pitch here, right, is here's an L2 that has the advantages of the Move VM and has the portability of EVM code through MEVM, your interpreter. And that's live.
Yep. It's already live in DevNet.
Live in DevNet, so very close to being live.
So we have testnet coming out in 2 weeks, end of this July, and mainnet targeted September.
Okay. Which is, okay, guys, September.
Yeah.
Heard it here right now. But ambitious. But soon, which is both, I'm sure, very stressful for you, but also extremely exciting. Tell me about the ecosystem that's like building here, what you're excited about, who have you been able to attract? Because I would sense that trying to pull developers into a new VM and a new standard is like generally pretty challenging. Maybe this has been made easier because Facebook and Meta did spend so many resources on developing the Move language. But like, tell me about getting developers to build on this ecosystem.
I think what's interesting is that we inherit all the work that Aptosens we have done. So we support both styles of Move and both as developers. So some of the devs are just coming directly from those ecosystems, like Meridian. They raised 4 million. They're like a core DeFi protocol. Dex, you have Echelon that raised like 3, a core lending protocol. So you have like the 2 or 3 DeFi apps, but I think that's not really what we're here for. Like, we're not here just building another EVML2 that has copy-paste DEX lending protocols. What's interesting is that we have a stack where people can launch customized high-throughput rollups. So we just announced Nexia, which is a Move VM in Bitcoin. So ability to bring this high-throughput execution environment to Bitcoin standard is pretty interesting. Then we have Up Network, which we announced 2 days ago, which is the first Movement phone. So this is a company based in Kyoto, already have sold 10,000 phones. Guys are Xtron and Samsung, so a combination of both. And it's super cool to see like a mobile phone designed for Ethereum, have DeFi apps built into it, but also isn't a crypto phone, it's sold as a Samsung phone. So that's super cool. It's called Up Network HQ, you should check it out. And those are more of like the weird plays. I would say Bracket, it's like a poly market pumped up fund mix that's super exciting. The team's like ex-Treasure DAO folks, and they're building like a fully on-chain prediction market, so it's like a meme coin generator inside. And then the fully on-chain games are also interesting. So Infinite Seas is an MMO that is like a wartime warfare game, and they're able to do all the assets on-chain without needing to like mint off-chain. So obviously, as a core DeFi, and we want to be like the secure DeFi, but Ethereum, where LPs feel comfortable deploying ETH and not getting hacked. But beyond that, it's how we nurture these consumer and GameFi apps as well that can be on chain.
It's actually a lot, man.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's most of my day to day. It's just like, well, after you get to this point, it's like, how do you differentiate? Because I think the market's kind of saturated in that there's so many EVML2s that have launched and there's a lot of infrastructure fatigue. So now it's really focused on app layer. How can you nurture these important apps?
So for the Movement L2, is it right to think of it as its own stack, like OP stack, and like Movement L2 would be like another stack that's the Move equivalent?
I think there's a lot of role frameworks. You have the OP stack, you have the Polygon CDK, you have Arbitrum Orbit, and you have like 10 DA layers. The question, do we need all of them? We'll get into that. But I think no one's really innovating on the execution layer. They're saying like, build whatever, which is why we're here at Modular Summit, but focusing on the EVM. It's like customizing your car, pimping out the chassis and stuff, and then leaving like a shitty engine in there. So what we're doing is bringing a VM to every stack. We're announcing a big partnership with Polygon, one of the bigger wallet providers, coming shortly this month, where you can use the Polygon CDK, use whatever DA layer, and then launch with the Move and Stack rollup. You use like the Move VM and connect to a shared sequencer. So the main value props are fold, you have like the VM, which is high throughput execution environment, and then you have the shared sequencer, which enables you to interop if you want to.
Yeah, let's come back to the shared sequencer because
Yeah.
I'm really curious about the interrupt stuff. But does it mean, I mean, maybe it's not live today, but
Yeah.
could the like move VM get plugged into OPStack and Orbit?
That is the goal.
That's the goal.
Yep.
Okay, so it's like not there yet,
Yep.
but the goal is in my list of options of picking my
Yep.
L2, I can pick my VM, so I can
Yep.
pick move VM powered by
Yep.
or EVM powered move VM
Yep.
powered by you guys. I then pick my like settlement framework.
Yep.
So OPStack, Polygon CDK, Orbit, and I pick my DA later separately,
Yep.
and then I hit deploy, and there's my L2.
Exactly. High throughput L2 on Ethereum, customized.
Okay, very cool. Okay, so let's get into the shared sequencer bit,
Yep.
and like tell me about the move shared sequencer.
Yep.
What differentiates it? Why? Yeah, show me on it.
Yeah, so I think like there's 50 EVM L2s. We're entering this era where there's like hundreds of infrastructure projects. So the big question is interop. Obviously, you guys are working on it across, and I actually use across my favorite bridge and one of how I bridge between L2s, but it's still difficult doing that, right? If you're a bridge, you're probably reading light client state from multiple L2s. It'd be a lot easier if you can read this from one state from a shared sequencer or a few nodes that share state across multiple rollups. Every L2 is kind of playing on a game theory. Like the super chain is this thesis of connecting a bunch of chains with one shared sequencer. Orbit wants to do this. ZK Sync wants to do this. I was talking to Harry the other day, and Arbitrum's probably going to work with Espresso to some capacity and bring Orbit chains to Espresso. So I think the future is heading there, but like we touched on, it's not there today, and it probably won't be there tomorrow. The truth is, for EVM L2s like Arbitrum, they're printing a shit ton of money on a centralized sequencer, so why would they give up their business model? My two main cases for shared sequencers are interop. If you can have seamless and more secure bridging between different rollups is very important. And then B, most L2 tokens are meme coins. They're all just governance tokens. They don't have any value accrual. That's why they aren't the most strongest of tokens as well. While L1 tokens have staking and have more dynamic MEVs and all these cool business models that come around it. So when you have a decentralized sequencer, you can actually enable staking for the token. So if I'm a validator or running a node operator, I can stake the move token, participate in sequencing for the layer 2, but also get emissions for that. So I'll get emissions for staking, I'll get fee rewards for the layer 2, I'll get fee rewards for other layer 2s of the network. There's actually profitable MEVs that can pop up between the shared sequencer. So a whole new world of exploration. Your pushback will be like, okay, it's not as performance. You're gonna lose a lot of latency from that. And I agree. For example, if you're gaming L2, you should not use a shared sequencer. You stay in a centralized sequencer. You can be part of the network and we'll support you. But if you're an Orbit rollup, you will tap into it because you want liquidity. So I think it's use case by use case. Like if you don't want to sacrifice performance latency, stay a centralized sequencer, do what you gotta do. But if you don't really care about that, if you're yield aggregator, for example, you don't really care about the 0.1 millisecond latency if that exists.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. This isn't like there's a long conversation we can have after this, and I think we've got about 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
But I like how you argued both sides there.
Yep.
I do think, like, I look at native interop. If a shared sequencer brings you a form of native interop between some chains too, I still think you have this other problem where you'll have like pockets of native interop.
Yep.
You'll have like these 5 chains talk to each other and these 10 chains talk to each other and then and it's still not particularly connected. So I have this broader thesis that we can develop like layer of abstraction based around cross-chain intents that can kind of work better when there is native interop between chains, but still works well between chains. That's the thesis I'm pushing for. But this is your podcast, not mine. So, okay, cool. So where's the status of the shared sequencer that Movement Labs is building? It's
still in prototype, I would say. I don't think anyone's got to production ready for shared sequencer yet. It's still a very much wishy-washy thing. And we'll fully admit that. It's a very R&D effort. We're launching a centralized sequencer day 0, but it's a priority. Like we want to be on a decentralized sequencer within the first few months of mainnet and working towards getting there.
Is there a reason why you guys want to build your own shared sequencer versus using like Espresso or other
because
things?
Ultimately, every major layer 2 will build their own shared sequencer because you want to be able to you want to pocket all like the tokenomic economic value accruals, and B, right now I don't believe there's any way to do dual staking because the biggest issue between rollups is state finality guarantees. So if you roll up if you arbitrum optimism to guarantee state finality, you either have to use ZK state proofs, which is nowhere near ready, or B, you have to have crypto economic guarantees so that if I'm lying about state, I get slashed. That's only possible in a mechanism which is what we're working on, where it's essentially an AVS, where if I'm arbitrum, I put ARB as collateral, your optimism, you put OP as collateral. If you're lying about your state, you get your OP slashed. And that kind of mechanism hasn't been built by any shared sequence right now. I'm sure they're thinking about it. But pretty much the pushback from any centralized sequencer companies that state finality guarantees aren't there, and that's something that we're heavily focusing on.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do like a more technical deep dive podcast on this too, but that's really cool. Okay, we got to wrap it up. Where can people find out more about Movement and what you're doing?
At Rushi Mancha on Twitter, and then at Movement Labs XYZ on Twitter as well.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for this. And
thanks so much.
Yeah, talk soon.
Appreciate it.